Hello, friends, and welcome to Page Chewing Comics and Manga Pick of the Week, episode 49. This week it is just me. Mike, my wonderful co-host, is out of town traveling, so you're stuck with me. A solo episode for this week. We will be back next week for episode 50, and we are, of course, open to any questions or Q&A or thoughts or anything else that you'd like to submit. You can either submit those on the forum at pagechewing.com, or, of course, use the link down in the description to send us a message. Be happy to read them off and answer them. We have a few questions already, so we are excited to go there. And to episode 50 is kind of wild. I didn't think we'd get to 50. Well, I don't know what we get to, but I'm happy. It's pretty fun. I want to thank all of you who have been listening all this time. It's a big milestone, and just want to thank all of you who listen every week and who come along the journey with us. For those of you who are new, I am Steve, and I am getting back into the world of comics. I guess I'm back in the world of comics now, 50 weeks later. But every week I go to the local comic book shop and try to find books that appeal to me, things that I can get into that don't have a ton of continuity, or try ones that do have continuity and see if it'll work for me. But I try to find some number ones or new arcs, new creative teams, things I can jump onto, and trying to find things that work for me. And thankfully we found many things that have, and we'll talk about that here in just 1 minute. So this week, the first book I want to talk about is Bear Pirate Viking Queen number 3. I really loved the first issue of this one, which focused on the bear and the pirate. And it was a double issue, so it's really 4 issues, but this is number 3. And I think some people, myself included, wonder, what is the bear there for? Because we do get a background on the pirate, we do get a background on the Viking, and we do in this issue get a background on the Queen, and we get history, and we kind of get inside the minds of each of these different types of characters about the pirate. What makes someone want to be a pirate, and what is that lifestyle like? The Viking, of course, what drives them, what's their history, what's in their blood, what makes them go. And of course, the Queen, about conquest, and how do they all work together? What's the synergy through all these different through these different characters? How do they all feed off each other, good and bad, mostly bad? In this final issue, of course, the artwork is fantastic. Again, it's the watercolor artwork that I've come to know and love. Just fantastic artwork, beautiful artwork. And we wrap up the story with a Viking going after the Queen. And it finished up in a way that I did not expect, but I really, really liked it. It is very poignant and very touching. It's very, kind of makes you question everything. Makes you question, what's the point of all this? What is the point of not because why did I read this, but what is the point of all these different types of characters? What is the point of all these different culture, all these different things, all these different conquests and battles and death and everything else, all these conflicts? What is the point of all of it? Because we get down to kind of what really matters, I guess, kind of the bare minimum, or the kind of the nuts and bolts. And yeah, it's really hard to finish a series. I think it's really tough to finish a story, but it nailed it. I think this creative team did a great job with it. Nailed the ending. I loved it. Really close to being pick of the week. Was just edged out by a book we'll talk about here in a few minutes. But Bear Pirate Viking Queen, wonderful book. I plan to have the collected edition as soon as I can on my shelf. It's just beautiful to look at. The next book I read was Grindle, Devil's Crucible. Now, I'm not familiar with Grindle. It's a character that I've been familiar with through the years. I always thought he looked cool. I never knew what the story was, but the character always appealed to me, so I thought, I'll give it a shot. I get the impression very quickly that if you aren't familiar with the previous stories, you're a little bit lost. They do give you some context. They do give you some background on why Grindle is here. Kind of not really how he got here, but at least, kind of the predicament he's in. And it was okay. I think the artwork was solid. It does give you enough to give you, to kind of, you can follow along with the story, but not enough that I was really immersed in it that I'm dying for the second issue. I think like a double issue would have been really smart to do on this one to kind of introduce people like me to the world that aren't familiar with it at all, to to get us, like I said, just immersed in the story, because I'll probably pick up the second issue, but it's one that is pretty forgettable at this moment. And unless I see it on the shelf, I may not grab it. I won't seek it out. It's one of those where it was fine, but I'm not counting down the days either. Now, the next one is Kneel Before Zod, number 7. I've been really enjoying this series. I think the focus on evil Superman, the opposite, the evil Superman thing is, I just love that whole idea, so I'm a sucker for it anyway. I really love Zod in general, but I've never read a Zod story that dove this deep into just Zod. Usually in DC and Marvel, we get stories like this, but then it gets muddied with different characters and events, and it becomes something else. Kneel Before Zod has focused on Zod, the character, kind of, what makes him tick. He's not a likable character, but he's a fun character. He's evil, and he does have his moments of, I won't say heroism, but he has moments of doing the right thing, but it's not because it's the right thing to do. It's because it serves his goals. But I like that. I like that it's true to the character, not trying to make a good person out of Zod. It's really diving into Zod and kind of exploring that character. It's not trying to make him something that he's not. Zod is an evil villain, and it doesn't apologize for it. It knows what it's doing, and I really like that. So yeah, this is also, it kind of struck me too in this issue that this series has been a bit of a slow burn, but in a good way, because it's telling a story. The story is rolling out, but the way it's rolling out, while it doesn't seem slow month to month, when you kind of look back and reflect on the first 6 issues, you look back now on issue 7 and think, this has all been, it's a slow burn. It's not rushing, but it's just the right pace where it is. You can see the story that they're developing because of the world they're building, and it's all making sense. They had a plan. At least that's the way it seems. If you didn't have a plan, then you fooled me. But it seems like there was a plan. There was a kind of mile markers that they're following, and it's worked really well. The artwork isn't my favorite, if I'm being honest. It's fine. There's times when it shines, but it's not the art style that I would prefer. But it's still good. There is something that happens that at the end of the issue that I'm a little bit concerned with, because we do get a connection to the rest of the DC universe. So like I said before, I hope this doesn't muddy the waters. I hope this doesn't become another, gets convoluted with all these other characters and events and all this other continuity. I hope it doesn't muddy it too much, and I hope we just kind of explore it for what it is, and it doesn't become something else. So I'm really hopeful that doesn't happen. But I have faith in this team. Hopefully it'll work out. The next one, no. Okay, so the next one was a cover by, and so something. Let me just preface this by saying that when I first got into comics back in the 90s, I read lots and lots of X-Men. I read lots of the Claremont run, I was reading that during the kind of the Jim Lee X-Men reboots, during like events like Extinction Agenda. So I got to know that group of X-Men, Wolverine, Storm, Cyclops, Psylocke, Jean Grey. Those are the characters that I kind of have an affinity for, because I grew up with them, and they're my X-Men. I think we all have groups that, or teams or groups that we kind of we think fondly back on and think, well, that's I can't say that's my Fantastic Four, because they've always been the same as far as I know, but you know what I mean. There's certain depictions of characters or groups that we become kind of attached to, because it brings that nostalgia back, even though those books were probably bad if we read them now. But either way, you get my point. So when I saw X-Men Bloodhunt Psylocke #1. I've always thought Psylocke is a cool character. I thought Psylocke is just a badass character. That's the reason I read Uncanny X-Force. They run a few years, or I don't know how many years ago it was. One of the reasons I read is because of her character. And of course, Wolverine, and because the costumes were cool. Either way, I just had to pick this up because I think just Psylocke is cool. And I don't really know what Bloodhunt is, other than it's a vampire story, I guess, which always strikes me as weird when we get these horror tropey stories in the middle of summertime. Shouldn't we save this for fall? Either way, I grabbed this one. I knew better, and it didn't take me long to regret my decision. I just didn't care. This event, yeah. The artwork wasn't my style at all. It felt had more of a digital kind of what I think of. I don't read a ton of Marvel books, but all the art styles feel very similar. The books that I've read anyway, and it's just not my cup of tea whatsoever. It feels very soulless and just not my thing. And it didn't take me long before I was checked out of this book. And one of those times that my nostalgia glasses were on, I was hoping for something and it just didn't deliver. So yeah, shame on me for doing that. But sometimes we have to take a shot and take a chance on a book that we normally wouldn't, but I took a shot. It didn't work, which I probably should have predicted. All right. So this is a quick episode because it's just me this week and I didn't have a ton of books, but I want to talk about my pick of the week, which is Precious Metal #1. Now, Little Bird has been on my list to read for a while. I keep reading. It's one of the best comics of the past 10 years. There's other people who say it's one of the best ever, one of the best of the last 20, 25 years. I always get a little bit skeptical when I hear things like that. So it's been on my list to read. I just haven't picked it up yet. And when I saw Precious Metal #1, it's a prequel to Little Bird that you don't have to read Little Bird to understand. So I give it a shot. And not reading Little Bird, I'm a bit of a completionist. I like to read things in publication order, just to experience it the way that it was experienced if you were reading it at the time, or watching it for that matter. So I jumped into this one, and within the first page or so, the artwork, love the artwork. It is detailed. It's very, it just feels very dense. All the detail, all the colors, the landscapes, the backgrounds, the characters, the characterizations, all of it worked. It is a dystopian science fiction world that it's not only science fiction, it does dip into a bit of horror too. There's some just wonderful artwork that I fell in love with, and not only the artwork but the characters too. We follow Max, who's searching for a kid. I'll try and leave this as spoiler free as possible. He's searching for a kid who may have the secrets to his memories, who may be able to restore his lost memories. And through his journey, he's looking for this child and learns about the child and about what the child means. And also he's almost like a bounty hunter in a way. He's hunting down people. He's a modder. He's modded, and he's trying to find this kid. And he's kind of I don't say Han Solo type of character, but kind of like a loose cannon, that type of character. And he's trying to survive in this world. And there's all these different characters within the world that he interacts with, that all of them have a very distinct look, distinct personalities. They all interact with him differently. From start to finish, this book was I believe a double-sized issue. I think I forget the page count, but it's double what you would normally get. And wow, it is just fantastic. I loved it from start to finish. There's some books like X-Men Bloodhunt, Psylocke 1, that it was a slog to get through the 20 or 30 pages or whatever it was. With Precious Metal, I just felt like I was immersed in this story. I love the artwork. I love the characters. I love the story. I love the world, the way it's built. I just no complaints, no complaints at all. I loved it. So it is a prequel to Little Bird, which I'm going to wait to finish this one before I get into Little Bird. Little Bird, probably. I believe issue 2 is almost out. I think I'm a little bit late with Precious Metal 1, just because I just didn't see it on the shelf and it was recommended to me. So I'm a little bit late to the party on this one. I'm a week or two late. But it's one of those it is just so good that I just could not make it my pick. Just really, really, really great stuff. So a few pages in, I was hooked. And as good as Bear Pirate Viking Queen number 3 was, it just wasn't as good as Precious Metal 1. And I've looked at the cover for the second issue and it looks just as good. So I'm very, very excited. So I know it was a brief episode this week, but don't worry, Michael will be back next week. We have some questions to answer. We have some things to talk about. So like I said, if you have any questions for us, if you'd like to come on and join us for our 50th episode and talk about comics you love or make recommendations to us, let us know. Contact us on the forum. We can be found on the forums at pagechewing.com or pagechewing.com/forum. If you're not already a member there, register for an account, and I just have to go through the different memberships, make sure that you're not a bot or whoever, and I will approve your membership. It takes me about a day or so sometimes, so just be patient and give us recommendations. Come and talk comics with us. We talk books, movies, comics, damn near everything on our forum. We have a very small, tightly knit community, and we always like to make new friends. So I hope you all have a great reading week. If you do write a message or a question, in your question, be sure and include your favorite book of the last week or a recommendation for us to read sometime in the next 50-ish episodes. Thanks again for supporting the show. It's been a really, reading comics in my other podcasts or book podcasts, and those take a lot of time to get through. But reading through a pile of comics every week and coming here and talking about them with Mike has been just a really easygoing process, and I've really appreciated it. So really thank you for supporting the show, for listening, for engaging. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope to do another 50 episodes and so you kind of see where it takes us. We have some things planned. We have some requests out for some creatives to join us. We've been denied a few times, but we're still trying. So if you have any suggestions on guests or interviewees, then let us know. In the meantime, I hope you have a fantastic week, and we will talk to you all very, very soon.